Hey guys, I'm DJ. Welcome back to my channel. Let's talk books. Happy Black History Month. Okay. This video is going to be all about positivity, blackity black positivity. And my goal is to make sure that I'm keeping up my positivity rate 1000% from here on out, because there's enough negativity out there and we're just doing away with that. And I want to take a little time to talk about this flu, cold, swine, bird flu, whatever is going on. Everyone's sick. You can probably hear it in my voice. I just got over and kind of still dealing with like a 6-day, I don't know what this was. I wasn't really like on my deathbed, but I was definitely just feeling like, But I'm feeling better and I'm staying positive, you know what I mean? Sickness can't get me down. It's Black History Month. And Beyonce won Best Album of the Year. So, you know what? Pause. I have an exclusive Diesel Beyonce Carter leather jacket. Like, for those of you who don't know, I worked for the clothing company Diesel for like 13 years. Some of the best years of my life, because I got to experience amazingness. But yeah, Diesel did a collaboration with Beyonce and Jay-Z during the Carter tour, and yeah, I had to get this jacket. There weren't many made all over the world, and it's an exclusive. Like, I have it, and I'll be wearing this for the rest of the video because Beyonce won Best Album of the Year. I mean, this is something we've been waiting for a long time. Had to happen, did happen. It's giving Cowboy Carter. Got my leather on, you know what I'm saying? But yes, let's get back to talking about these books. So it is very Black History Month, and we are in a time where I think it is very important for people to pay attention to what is going on. Through my experience in social media, there have been multiple times when the racism subject would come up, and a lot of people would be like, oh, just let it go. That's such an old thing. Stop talking about slavery, Jim Crow, all of that. Like, leave it in the past. That was a long time ago. Let it go. And a lot of people don't understand that, like, history repeats itself. And just because something happened in an immense way hundreds of years ago doesn't mean that it can't happen again, where we have very rich people who are trying to erase history, but then simultaneously trying to implement slavery. So this is a time where I would just implore everyone to just be very, very aware, observant, just monitor what's happening, because we are in a situation where slavery could be a thing again. And it has nothing to do with your skin color. It has nothing to do with your gender. It has nothing to do with your identity at all. It's just about your class. If you are at the top with the big billionaires, then maybe you won't be a slave. But if you're down here with us regular people and you don't pay attention to what's going on and take action, you might end up being a slave. But I digress. Let's move on and talk about these Black History Month books. Okay, so I chose 10 books off of my shelves that I felt like would be good for this Black History Month, because we're not focusing on the negative. We're not focusing on just like the civil rights movement or slavery or any of those things. We're focusing on Black authors that have immensely huge, great voices that will put a lot more context to what is going on, how it happened before, happening now, and could possibly happen in the future if we don't take heed to what these people are actually trying to tell us and have been telling us. So let's get to these books. Okay, so the first book on my Blackidy Black History Month book list is The Fire Next Time by James Baldwin. I don't know if you guys can see that. I hope the camera is cameraing. But yeah, so I read this book wow, maybe like 3 years ago. It's been a while. James Baldwin has such a different perspective of explaining racism and the results of what racism leaves in like the black communities, and expressing to many white people who I guess don't get it, giving different like analogies and different like situational content that will better help people who are idiots and who don't actually understand that like racism is a real thing, and it really beats down on an entire people, not just one community, but multiple people, multiple communities, nations suffer based off of racism. And just the way that James Baldwin uses language to explain that, and to explain not only the difficulties of racism, but how black people have shown such great resilience to actually become refined and made new and amplified based off of the obstacle of what racism is. And I won't give too much because you all should just read it, but James Baldwin is one of the greatest voices to ever speak. And this very, very slim, small read it's worth it. So, The Fire Next Time, James Baldwin. Okay, so the next book on my Blackidy Black History Month book list is How to Be Anti-Racist. And this book is by Ibram X. Kendi. I hope you guys can see it. Can y'all see this? Okay. I think I can see that you can see it. Okay, great. Yeah, so How to Be Anti-Racist. I have not read this book, and I don't know why it's taking me so long to read it. I think in my mind, I'm already like anti-racist. But then I always think like when you are like born and raised in a world where like racism is the keynote, like how can you not be racist? And not in the sense of like being like negatively racist or like defensively racist, but just operating in a system that is based on race. Like how do you operate in that world or navigate that world without using the mechanism that is racism? I guess that's why I should read this book. But yeah, so Ibram is such a great writer, and I follow him on Instagram, and so many articles that he posts, so many like responses to current events. It's just so like profound. Everything that he writes is very profound, and I need to actually read his stuff instead of just being on his Instagram, right? Like social media has just, who am I? If anyone has read this book, which I'm sure a lot of you have because this is like everywhere, let me know what you think. I'm going to press and push hard to actually read this month because it's not that big. It's not that much. I say that now, and then the words are extremely small, and it takes me 7 months to read this book. But yeah, I'm going to read this. I should read this. And the cover is awesome. It's one of those covers that, you know, it makes you want to pick it up. Yeah. So, How to Be Anti-Racist. Okay, so let me continue to kick myself and talk about another book by the same author that I haven't read and I should read. And that book is Stamped from the Beginning. Now, I mean, this book has been out for a long time. Let me see when this book came out. This book came out in 2017. Now, I mean, I didn't really start my reading journey again until like 2020. So those 3 years, you know, let me live. But I did get this book in like 2021. And I mean, maybe I'm just feeling like because it's so big, I'm like intimidated by this. But I don't think so. I've read a lot of big books since. Like, speaking of, you know what I mean? Look, come on. This looks like it's bigger than this one. So, yeah. Stamped from the Beginning is a part of kind of like a whole universe that Ibram is creating, giving us more content when it comes to American history. When this book came out, and also another book that I'm going to talk about in this video, when those books came out, the author and the other authors were just explaining how we have these specific lifelines of what American history is. And unfortunately, there are so many stories that aren't told, so much that isn't taught. And these authors, like Ibram and other authors in books that I will present, they are giving us things that we never knew that we needed. Explaining stories to us, explaining people to us that can give us a little bit more context to like how we got from point A to point B. And I should read this so that I can give more context to myself and to you guys. Yeah, I'm not sure when I will read this, but if you're looking for something to read for Black History Month, this might be the book for you. I'm already reading a bunch of stuff for Black History Month, so maybe, but soon. Staying on that path, I will just talk about the next book that is on that Ibram Universal shelf, and that book is 400 Souls. Now, this book is by Ibram and Keisha Blaine. The cover is fire. It's like one of my favorite covers. Really, really dope. But there are like tons of authors that are a part of this collection of writings. This book is a part of that whole universe of giving more context to American history, and multiple writers in here. Some I've read who are like profound writers, and some I've never heard of. I did start reading this. You see that one lonely tab? I tried. But I think at the time when I was reading this, I was also reading The Prophets, and The Prophets was such a heavy book. There's no way that I would have read this and made it out alive. So I put this down, but I will pick it up again. I do feel that those 3 books are now like really on my radar now that I've taken them off the shelves and I've like really kind of got a view of them and started to read the summaries again. I feel like I need to get it together and actually read these books. Bad me. Bad me. If you are looking for a nonfiction thick read for Black History Month, Blackidy Black History Month, then this is an awesome book to suggest. I've heard nothing but great things online about it. So, yeah. All right, so the next book on my Blackidy Black History Month list is The 1619 Project. And this is by Nicole Hannah Jones. Yeah. Great thing about this book, someone actually gifted this book to me. When it came out, I was just over the fact that I didn't have it, that I had waited too long. I bought a bunch of other books and I was like, I can't afford that book right now. And the book gods heard my cry. And someone sent this to me. Crazy thing is, I got halfway through and I did not finish it. And I also feel like this is a great opportunity for me to get back to books that I did start. When I was like reading these books, everything was like really heavy. It was a lot going on. George Floyd and just the whole pandemic. And I mean, even now, now might not even be the right time. But like I said in the beginning, we are being positive. There's a positive to everything. And I think the positive right now is being able to buy books and have knowledge that can't be erased off of like social media or erased off the internet. These are books that we can pick up and say, hey, I actually do have the knowledge. But this book also goes along with what I was just talking about, recreating and also creating the histories that we just don't have access to. People doing so much tremendous work and so much research to find out exactly who we are as Black people, where we've come from, who our ancestors are and what they dealt with, and the resilience of these people to get us to where we are now, where we have way more freedoms than what was allotted to us when we were in that situation. Now we're in this situation. If you want to read something really special and important during Blackidy Black History Month, the 1619 Project is amazing. From the half of the book that I've read, I can vouch. It's great. Okay, so the next book on my Blackidy Black History Month list is Stench. This is The Making of the Thomas Court and the Unmaking of America by David Brock. I love a black and white cover, you know? Love that. So this book is pretty much talking about David Brock and specifically his connection to Clarence Thomas, and just explaining things about the Supreme Court and people who were trying to pretty much infiltrate that like federal and governmental arena and get the people that they want into those places so that they can control the world. And isn't this a familiar story? We've been hearing about this since Donald Trump became president back in like 2016. So in my opinion, I just feel like reading these books will really help me grasp more of the idea of what exactly is going on behind the scenes, because we hear so much about all of these different situations, but we're just taking it at face value and not really thinking like, well, how are they doing this? Why are they doing this? And there may be a way for us to actually stop these people from doing this, but we don't know. And the best way to know is to read. So, yeah, you know me, I'm not a huge fan of Clarence Thomas. And David Brock was and no longer is. He's an ex-conservative. Love that. You know, I would say no offense to any conservatives that are watching this, but this is Black History Month. It's Blackidy Black History Month. And I will just say, being conservative sounds like you don't like a lot of people. And no one wants to be that person, right? You don't want to be that person that's just like, I don't like a lot of people because I'm always mad because things aren't just regular. We don't want that. Not for this month, not when Beyonce won Best Album of the Year. We're not doing regular anymore. We're being extra abnormal. You know, just extra, read all about it. Black History Month. Okay. So the next book on my Blackidy Black History Month list is, you knew it was coming, Caste. Goddamn Caste. The Origins of Our Discontent. I'm glad I have eyes, and I have been able to witness what Isabel Wilkerson was able to put into this book. She has become like one of my favorite authors. Like at this point, I just have to say like, she's in the top 5. She's in the top 3. As a journalist, the way that she comprised this, it didn't even really feel like I was reading nonfiction. It just felt like a novel. But this book is pretty much explaining how what we are dealing with in America, and not only in America, but America as the default, goes beyond racism. Like racism is like under the umbrella of this caste system where there are literal levels. People are like, you're on the top shelf, second shelf, third shelf, depending on how white you are, where you came from, what your class level is, or how much percentage of black you may have in you, what type of black, and pretty much explaining how black people have been pushed all the way down to the bottom of this hierarchy so that white people and other people who aren't considered black but are brown can feel like they're just not at the bottom. They're somewhere in the middle or somewhere towards the top so that everyone can feel good about themselves, which is strange. We all know that racism and all of this is just strange. Like, if you have ever had a genuine thought or had a decent like interaction in your own brain that was based in logic, you know racism is just strange and dumb. But here we are, reading and writing books about it. But Caste, The Origins of Our Discontent, this is an amazing book. It also adds to that universe of black history and explaining what happened without the white gaze. And yeah, it's so crazy in this book. One part of it, she was talking about how Hitler and his gang was like, you know, we take some advice from the United States on how to be terrible to the Jews, but there's certain things that we can't even do. Like Hitler and his people were like, we're not even going to do that. Like what they're doing to the black people there in America, that's not good. Like when Hitler says that something is too much and not good, you know it's bad. So yeah, if you really want to learn, read this book. Read this book. Read this book. The next book on my Blackidy Black History Month Beyonce 1 Best Album of the Year book list is A Promised Land. And this is by Barack Obama. Y'all see him. You see him. You see it. I have not read this book. That's crazy. That's crazy. It's crazy. I have it because, I mean, the one and only black president of the United States. If this ain't Blackidy Black History Month, I don't know what is. Look, he was in the White House, standing there, black. Listen, I was born in 1985. And I learned a lot about America. I was born in Harlem, and I learned a lot about black people being in politics, being like civil rights leaders, movement leaders, activists, all of that. We had no choice. But one thing that you could have never had me predict was that we would ever have a black president. And the fact that we've had a black president, 2 terms, I think that he just deserves every trophy he can ever get because he's done something that none of us thought would happen. And that, my dear friends, is the power of racism, where it is so messy and so crazy and so thick that people wouldn't even imagine that this would happen. This happened. Okay. But yeah, so I am going to read this. I have no idea what it's about. If you've read this book, leave it in the comments. Let me know. I don't know what this is about. I do believe that it is just his account of his terms in the White House, probably giving a little more context to like who he is, his background, coming up through the ranks. But I'm going to read this. This is a very big book. Like, it's thick, it's heavy. The pages are thin with small words. So you already know I'm going to struggle, but I'm going to read this. This is great. This is the meaning of Black History Month. Obama. Okay, so the next book on my Blackidy Black History Month list is The Source of Self-Regard by Mother Toni Morrison. Now, my bad if it's bright and it's crazy. I'm sorry. Maybe, yeah, that looks better, right? Okay, so I did not finish this book. But I have a better reason than the reasons I have for the other books. I didn't finish this book because I'm too dumb. I'm stupid when it comes to Toni Morrison. Like, I have to go back to college and like rejuvenate my mind. I have to go back and become someone else because whenever I read this book and I try to get past where this is, I just feel stupid. I'm like, how can I keep reading if I don't understand what I'm reading? Like, Toni Morrison really put on her graduation hat and wrote this. I'm going to try. You know, I'm a different person now. I'm better than I was yesterday. So I feel like, yeah, I'm going to try to read this again. This book is beat up. Like, it's got ruins all over it because I've tried to take this everywhere with me. I felt like maybe if I was in another place, I would be better at understanding this craziness that she's talking about in this book. But this book is pretty much a summary of like essays, speeches, and meditations by Toni Morrison. And she talks about multiple different subjects. It's not just about like racism. It's about a large variety of things. There are like topics like feminism, capitalism, different things in here that she really goes in on. And I mean, I'm just trying to become smarter and better every day so that I can live up to reading this book. But if you would like to read this and you're smarter than me, you're a smart person, get this book, The Source of Self-Regard by Toni Morrison. Yeah, there we go, I guess. Okay, we are at the last book of our Blackity Black History Month list. And that Blackity book is Run. And that is book 1. Run. This book is by John Lewis, Andrew Aden, L. Fury, and Nate Powell. This is a graphic novel, comic style, I don't know, illustration book. And it's pretty much retelling a story of John Lewis and revolting against racism in the South. I have not read this. I've had this book for a while. I should read this. I'm sure it'll be a fast read because it's not like your traditional novel. But I think it's really cool. I bought it because the cover is really fire. And we lost John Lewis not too long ago. And I feel like these are the things to remember people by, especially in Black History Month. We're talking about history. So yeah, I am going to read this. I am going to give it a little time. If you've read this, let me know. I think this is another book that is not based on the negativity, but it's also adding art and positivity and creativity to stories that honor resilience, honor fighting back, honor giving people their flowers for the times when they were selfless and they were thinking about their community and pushing back against the oligarchy. We are in an oligarchy. Positive. We're doing positive. So yeah, read, run. All right, we did it. This video happened. I'm out here. Even though, you know, I'm a little stuffy, I'm going through the motions with the swine bat cat flu that is just pillaging all over the world. Everybody's sick, but we out here. I came through because, like I said, we about to make this a thing. We about to talk about these books over and over and over again, and we're gonna fall in love with this culture of being happy, being positive, being educated, aware, and also, like I said in my last video, we're staying dedicated to being who we are as readers. I realize that I'm a trauma whore. I like to read things that are not as bright, but you know what? That's okay because I love reading what I read. And I am currently reading a horror book that is just sending me, but I digress. We'll talk about this in the next video. I'm just always glad to have this opportunity to chill with y'all, to talk with y'all. Before I go, you already know, leave a comment, leave a like, suggestions in the comments. Let's talk, let's party like it's 1999. Okay. Yeah, so once again, I just want to say thank you guys for coming through. And if you have any Black History Month suggestions for me, leave them in the comments. And I mean, beyond the Malcolm X and Martin Luther King books, let's go deeper. Let's get some things out there that we don't normally talk about. So that being said, thank y'all for watching. I'll see you next time. Peace.